Bueno, empiezo.
All right, so let me start because Jorge is a little bit strict when it comes to the time. How long? Till 10 past 1. Okay, you all heard it, right? Till 10 past 1. Okay. So don't cut me off. What can I say now? All right then, so we are here with Mauricio, and this is a disclaimer. Paloma Gonzalo was supposed to interview him, and she's a much better interviewer. But luck, you have to deal with me. You have to deal with me, Espíritu Santo, which translates for Holy Spirit, the Holy Ghost. So you can confess everything to me. And greetings to Paula, she would have been much better, but that's what you get. Okay, so to start off, last night I spoke to Mauricio, and he's an outstanding guy. And if I had to write headings or a clickbait, so you all click on it and find out what happens with this water, my clickbait or my heading would be Mauricio is an entrepreneur who never studied, who wants to change the world. And you would probably want to click. Why am I saying that he didn't study? He's a graduate in economics, but he didn't know anything about the field he was entering. He didn't know anything about design or engineering. However, he managed to get his goal. And this is just proving that we can all get there, we can all make it, we can all achieve something. But why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what you are? Are you a studyless entrepreneur, or what are you? It's a pleasure for me to be here because I love sharing my project. It started out as an idea. I did study, to tell you the truth, but I studied things that honestly have nothing to do with science or biology or chemistry or designing and manufacturing a product. But I am a very curious person, and I'm quite stubborn as well. So whenever I come up with an idea, I have to find a way to implement it. Okay, then. So with online information, Wikipedia, YouTube, etc., I use Wikipedia and YouTube a lot. And with these tools, I started looking into how we could implement such a theoretically simple idea. But whenever you start speaking to scientists, they all tell you that that's impossible. So like I said, I'm stubborn, and I try to find a way to make it true. I was born and raised in Peru, and then I got a scholarship to study in the US and the UK. And I worked for Intel in Germany for a couple of years. So I've always been interested in technology as a tool to sort out basic problems. When you grow up in Peru, you see a lot of poverty, you identify many needs. And after my journey through 5 countries, I wanted to do something for Peru. So what's the current situation of water in the world? Back in the 90s, there was a cholera flea or a pandemic, and so we realized how tough it is and how many people could die of it. 800 million people do not have drinking water in the world, according to official statistics. But the facts, the actual figures are 3-4 times higher, because many people do have drinking water, but they have to treat it somehow. Or like in Mexico, where over 90% of the people have drinking water, theoretically, but they cannot actually drink it. They have to boil it first or treat it somehow. So the situation is much worse than what's actually reported. In 2010, water was declared as a fundamental human right, but I haven't read any report or I haven't seen anything about steps forward. There is something about it in the Sustainable Development Goals, but there is still a very long way to go. So in some territories, in some lands, water kills. But you saw what everyone else sees, but you decided to do something about it. You're a trained economist, and you decided to. Well, what happened? Well, the idea came about because, well, I was very interested in collaborative economy, and I thought it was amazing to see that people who were not engineers or scientists were developing very interesting projects with drones, 3D printers, etc. And this is how I realized that you don't need to be a scientist or an engineer to do things you're actually interested in. You have to ask the right people and go online and do the right thing. So I went back to Peru. I went to the Peruvian jungle, where a friend of mine is leading a reforestation, a replanting project, where you cannot, in that area, you cannot drink from the rivers. You cannot drink from the Amazon because there is a heavy mining industry and the waters are polluted. So realize the impact of humans and how the sources are going to grow scarcer and scarcer. Many countries will not have the money to invest in infrastructure, and you realize how deep the problem is, and you realize that it will grow even deeper. So I was walking down the jungle thinking that it would be amazing to have a bottle where you have water that's filtered right there and you can drink it as you go. So I went back and tried to find a way to make it a reality. So I thought that it would be a good idea to print it, to have a 3D printer, to print it anywhere in the world. Then I realized that it was much more complicated than this. Okay, so throughout this story you just told us, maybe you don't understand the question, but you will understand his answer. Throughout your journey to reach to your goal, there was an after and a before and after. There was a before the castle and after the castle. What's that castle about? Tell us about the castle. Okay, so I went to Barcelona, and a friend posted on Facebook something of an event that was going to be held in France before the COP21. It was the POP 21. They were going to put forward 12 ideas from the citizens to adapt to climate change, because the politicians were not doing anything for that. So that was quite a crazy idea from a group of designers and activists, and we share an international organization, and they brought together 200 people for a month in an abandoned castle outside Paris, without electricity, without sanitation or anything. So we camped outside the castle with 12 ideas. We had the best 3D printers and laser cutters. It was like a hippie campsite and a high-tech lab and very highly spiritual people. It was quite an interesting mixture. We were not developing a startup. We were not presenting business plans to investors. We were taking our we have to do our things. We have to go to the toilet in a pot and throw it away to decompose. So it was not high tech as it sounds all the way through. And we created an environment where we could get to know people and create very nice experience. It was not a 2 days thing. It was several weeks long, and we had crises and problems, and there were activists who didn't want politicians to be there, and some other. Okay, so we had many different opinions, and it was a very beautiful project where you were working on your project while you could meet very talented people working on this, and everyone was working together. So that was a place where I met great people. And there was a very good rationale behind all of it. Let's solve a problem, we all be impacted by it. And it has to do with climate change and public health, etc. Many of the people were German, and they are very well organized. So they brought the media, and important companies emailed us to try and support. Decathlon was interested in that because people in Africa have the same needs than what mountaineers have when they go up the mountain. So that was that a one-off? Did it happen again? I think there is a documentary on it. What's the name? We can probably follow. We can probably. Well, the event is called POC 21. It's on Vimeo, and it's 1 hour long documentary, and it's very beautiful. So you had a great partnership and collaboration, right? What's the importance for that? What's the importance of that movement to reach your goals? I come from the world of the economics. I worked in New York. I also worked in a corporation. I work in private companies where there are patents, where you cannot share your ideas because someone might copy them. And this is a completely different environment. You share your ideas, you share your problems, people give you a hand, people are involved just for the sake of being interesting. Some people have had those needs, and they have identified the same problems, or maybe they just think it's interesting and they want to help you push forward. So that's very encouraging. There's always people who give you advice or tell you about a friend who does something related, and there is always a lot of feedback and a lot of input when you deal with other people. Dealing with other people, speaking to them, lead to steps forward. So the collaboration is very useful to solve serious problems. Okay, we only have 2 minutes, so let's present the product. What's the main product? How do you start out? What's your product? What is it? The first product is this one. The idea was to have a cap that fits into a regular plastic bottle, like the ones you can find anywhere in the world. And the idea is to get water from a well or a river in places where there is no drinking water or no tap water. You just grab it like this and you can drink it. And is it safe? It is safe. 100%. You can see that that's white, transparent water. And the main thing is that it removes bacteria. So there is a number of membranes, right? Yeah, well, the technology was patented about 40 years ago. And you realize that there is a lot of existing technology that is not used because there is not a money interest or economic interest, so there is not a way to market it. But at the end of the day, this is just a membrane with very small pores filtering the contents in the water. And there are materials such as alumina absorbing viruses, bacteria and chemicals. And I'm sure there will be other materials in the future that we will be able to leverage. The important thing is to have open, collaborative investigation, and that technology could help millions of people. Can we move to the questions now? Do you want to move to the questions now? Okay, if you have any questions, you can ask them now, and you can try this water as well if you want. If you want to test it, you can do it. It's Malaga water, and I trust them. I can drink. It has a fruity aftertaste. I'm just joking. Round in mouth. It's Malaga water from a park, from a pond in the park. Anyone wants to try out before lunch? Okay, take them the microphone and the bottle. Good one. This way we'll get fewer questions. Do you need to drink? Only if you want to ask. It tastes of earth, to tell you the truth, but it's also fruity. Okay, my question is on the filter, because you said that it observes bacteria, viruses. Does it also observe heavy metals and things like that? Like the problem you had in the Amazon was because there was mercury and other polluting metals in the water, right? Does it? Yes. First of all, we got the support from a London fund, the Fund for Humanitarian Innovation, and we wanted to implement this for refugee camps in outside Syria. And the pathogens were the main focus. So we started with bacteria. Then now we are testing materials for viruses and organic metals and organic chemicals. So this filter can last for 1,000 liters, depending on the water, but we are still investigating. We are thinking of spare parts at a very low price. We want it to cost about €1 because we want to reach out to everyone. People in some places of Africa or Latin America would not be able to buy more expensive items. And here, if you want to buy it to go to the mountains to do some hiking, then you would pay €20 for that. And with the spare money you would be giving out a gift, a manual filter for someone else somewhere else who can't afford it. Okay, so you can adapt this to different formats, right? You can put it in one of those big barrels. Yes, we were in Mozambique last week. We will be in Sudan and Ethiopia with Médecins Sans Frontières, and I'm going to have a conference call to speak about their needs later on today, to see how we can adapt this technology for different usages and for family environments. And we also have lab testing. Okay, that was my next question, because I trusted you, she did as well, but can we prove it scientifically somehow that water is actually drinking water? Well, we are not a usual company. We want to collaborate with researchers, universities, and citizens. And we have an agreement with the University of Barcelona where they are running lab tests. And we want to collaborate with researchers from the Technical University in Berlin. And they use this, they test it, and they use it on the field. We have a researcher who went to Syria to test it. So if I go to the Amazons and want to test it, can I do it? Yes. We have a €3-4 worth test. and it's the tissue that's connected to mobile phone, and you can you can use these plates. They cost €1 each. You can put water in here and see whether there are any bacteria in it. You can have filtered water, non-filtered water, and you can see the difference. This has been done in Mozambique after the tornado, and we saw that it actually works. So if you're working with Oxfam or UNICEF and it's not working in that specific place because you don't know what's in that specific water, it would be very useful to test it first, right? Yes, we have run laboratory tests and then tests on the field, and we want people to participate in keep testing it. We want to take it out in the market with at a low cost, and we want to market a very reliable product that anyone can afford. Anyone else wants to drink? Do you want a gulp? Come on, have a shot and a microphone. This is the very last question. No, I will have the very last myself. Otherwise, take the microphone. I won't have it. It's nice. Tastes good. Doesn't really taste of anything. I work for an NGO in Malaga, working in Haiti for 8 years, and we have worked for 5 years with water, precisely because the water means life, it means health, development, etc. And we are very interested in this. Do you have any device that could be used in a community? Because if you have it, I would be very glad to test it in Haiti. We are working with over 20 communities of displaced people after the earthquake, and yes, we have this prototype, and it's a working prototype. It works with a water pump, and we tried it in Mozambique when we went. And we wanted to know whether people liked it, because you might have the best technology, but if people do not like it, and if they don't trust it, then it's useless. But people loved it, and now we still have to fine-tune it and manufacture it in larger numbers and test it with other organizations before a massive distribution. So yes, okay, you can talk to him later. And to finish off, before Jorge jumps over me, it's a great pleasure to discuss with Mauricio, because he's got such a zen attitude. The way he tells things, I could listen to him for hours. Okay, but to finish off, we could say that man without any studies managed to change communities. So you are a dreamer, you are wonderful, and I would describe you as the water Arduino. The Arduino of water. Well, I just wanted to say that there is a lot of opportunities to make a change. Technology, design, and things like that address the 10% of the population who can afford it, but there are hundreds of millions of people who cannot access these technologies.